What's up, guys? This video is for everyone that maybe scaled something in the past or is actually scaling something right now, but is just overstressing and struggling to find a new winning ad into their accounts. And so usually this is the reason for this problem is because people are just going to CAD, like one of these approaches. Let's say this is the product you're trying to sell, right? And then they scroll down here to the video section, and then they just rip all these ads right here, right? Upload them into their ad account, do like a mass testing shotgun approach of all ripped creatives, don't even edit them, and then they just run them, right? And the problem with this is this exact thing. And I'm gonna break it down to you guys. If you take this number one ad right here as an example, I'm gonna tell you guys why it does not convert in your ad account like you want it to. So if we assume that you will get, because CAD is for TikTok Shop, right? If we assume that you on your store get the exact same conversion rate on as like a TikTok Shop store, which would be insane, right? No Shopify store ever converts like a TikTok Shop store, but let's just assume you would, okay? So if you see this right here, 28.19 million views and 11.5 thousand items sold, right? So orders. Now think about it this way, right? Usually when you're scaling something and even assuming that you're going to have the exact same conversion rate and the exact same AOV as on TikTok Shop on your store, what would happen technically is, let's say you get like $20, $25 CPA at a super high scale, right? But what most people don't understand here is that this is not the most important metric. It's not a most important metric how many items sold overall an ad has that you want to rip. What's more important than that is the ratio from items sold to views. And so imagine this, right? Let's say for 1,000 views, you get one item sold. That would mean that you have to pay 1 times their CPM on Facebook, considering that or expecting that you'd have the same conversion rate. 1 times your CPM. Now, if your CPM is $10 or $5, perfect. If your CPM is 40, right, it's going to be $40 cost per acquisition in the best case scenario of your conversion rate. Now, even worse is this, for example, because this video has 28 million views and almost, let's say, just for example purposes, 12,000 items sold, which means it's less than half of the conversion rate, right? So this ad is really good in terms of getting engagement, in terms of getting views, and in terms of going viral. However, it does not matter because on paid ads, you pay for people to see it. You pay for these impressions, right? And so you can't rip something like this and expect it to convert and to be able to compete with other really high converting creatives, because in paid ads, you only have to convert. Organic videos like this have to go viral and they basically have to also convert. But this doesn't matter if they convert like this or convert like this or like this, because they always make money and it only costs time to upload a video like that. However, if you just look at this ratio right here, it's less than half, which means you'd have to pay, considering the best case scenario, if you would convert the same as the TikTok Shop store on your Shopify store, you would have to pay more than double your CPM to get a sale. So if you're working with $30 CPMs, you'd have to pay over $60 per acquisition. That's going to be pretty hard considering that the AOV for this product is like what, $37, right? That would be a little bit unprofitable, right? Of course, there's a lot of stuff with consumables and subscription offers. Point I'm trying to make here, though, is that this approach fails because your ads are not converting, not because you're ripping the wrong ads. First of all, you shouldn't rip any content, right? You should move away from that. But a lot of people don't really understand on how to make really good paid ads. Assume, like, look at what they do is they look at a bunch of different terrible normal organic ads, and then they think the same things, same rules, same important stuff applies to those as well. And one thing which you can remember, these content creators are usually not really good at making money and converting people. They may be really good at getting attention and getting a lot of views because that's what they're doing, but they're not really good at making money and converting attention. And so I'm going to break down to you guys on this Miro board right here how you can actually instead of being controlled by the ads that you rip, actually get the control, and actually you being the one that controls what kind of conversion rate, what kind of CPC you have, right? And this is really important. This is a fundamental. This is nothing crazy, but you have to follow all these things. And pretty much everyone that I know that makes a lot of money with e-com or with paid ads in any type of business does these things, okay? So the most important part, and this is what I'm going to double down on, the most important part is your hook, right? The hook is a very in-depth topic that I'm going to talk about here, but essentially a lot of people try to, 30 seconds in my ad, I had this and that changed one word. You're not going to notice that, right? If you're below 100K a day, you're not going to notice that difference. But what you are going to notice, right, very, very massively, is if you change words and visuals and audio stuff in your hook, right, in the first 3 seconds of your ad. And so you can approach this way, right? You're basically always, like every part of your hook, right, can always be broken down into 3 different parts. Content hook, or what the text hook, or what the creator is saying, for example, visual hook, and the audio hook, right? And so you need to nail these things perfectly, right? Because these things overall in total make 80% of your ad's success. 80%. This is like a quote by Alex Hormozi. He said, if you've written your headline, if you've written your hook, you've spent 80 cents of your advertising dollar. So it's 80% of the ad success. And so there's a couple of different things that you need to apply for all these 3 things. And I'm going to show you guys how you can just do this, how you can edit, for example, Cal data ads like this one right here to make them convert better and to stand out from competitors who are just ripping it without putting in any thought, any marketing efforts themselves. And so for the content hook, what you need to do specifically is you need to test hooks first. This is a hook testing process, which not a lot of people are really talking about. And I think this is probably the highest leverage change that I've implemented into my stores, into everyone's stores that I've been working with. And one thing which you need to understand for these hooks right here is like they basically act like these text hooks are, one of the most important part out of these 3, right? Because they determine, first of all, which audience you optimize. You don't determine that in your ad set level, like targeting is over, retargeting is over. They determine which part of your funnel you're speaking to. They determine which audience you're niching down into, and how high your CPMs are going to be, and which awareness level, right, you speak to. And so every one of your hooks should be structured into awareness stages, right? So there's most aware, product aware, solution aware, problem aware, and unaware. And so you need to understand where most of your customers are and speak to those people properly in the right awareness level, in the right awareness stage. So how can you really do this? Well, you test, right? You really just test. And how you specifically test this, it looks like this actually, these 3 boxes that I've written down here, or that I've drawn down here. Essentially what you do is you open a document, you write down a bunch of different hooks, right? A bunch of different lines of text, and then you turn them into image ads that look like this. They look like this. It's just a white background. It's just text in the middle, and you test it. Call to action is learn more. You leave the primary text, the description, the headline blank. No other variable that your content hook is being tested in these ads. And the focus on this is volume. You want to do 30, 50, 100, 200 of these, right? And what you're going to do then is you're going to basically spend $3 to $5 each image that you make, and then just see which ones have the highest click-through rates, and that's it. And you want to look for extremely high click-through rates. You want to, I'm talking 7 to 15%, right? These don't need to convert, right? Don't look for add to carts. Don't look for the cost per add to cart. Don't look for the cost per purchase. For these image ad hook tests, you only look for the best CTRs, because they are going to determine your CPCs for the actual ads that you make. It doesn't matter if you make an offer-focused, most aware image ad in the future after this, or a super unaware 10-minute VSL. Everything in the middle. It's all going to come down to your hook, right? To your content hook. And so to be fair, if you test this for the first time, let's say you test 30 different hooks like this, image ads, spend $3 on all of them, none of them get 7 to 15% CTRs. No problem, because what do? You iterate, right? Iterations mean you do a sprint, you run these hooks, you look at the metrics, you identify all of them were shit, and then you go into the one deeper, which was the least bad, so which was the best, even if everything is bad, and then you start rephrasing that, rewriting that, maybe changing a couple things, maybe adding specific numbers, maybe making it longer, making it shorter, retesting another 30 that are just like the best one, and seeing, okay, maybe you get from 3 to 5%. Still not a 7%. So now what you do, you take the one which is from the second test, which was a, let's say 5%, and then you go deeper into that. And it's always more specific tests, smaller impact tests, but they essentially exponentially make the ads better at the end of the day, right? And this is what an iteration is. And so this is what you do until you reach some of your CTR, some of the hooks in this stage right here. And once you have a couple hooks, right, which are in between 7 and 50%, obviously more than 15, possible too, but it's ridiculous. By the way, don't look for CPMs too, and don't take ones which have completely inflated, super high CPMs, and then you move on to the visual hook. Because now that we've tested this first part of the hook, we're still not even close to having a perfect ad, a perfect hook, right? Now we got two more things to take care of. We got the visual hook and we got the audio hook. So when it comes to visual hook, you need to basically follow these 4 guidelines, have these 4 things. This is like a checklist, right, in your visual hook that just makes or breaks it, right? First of all, this is the most important, and across analyzing all of my sheets, all my spreadsheets, creative tracking sheets, and everyone that I work with, this is the strongest variable that you can have in your hook, your visual hook specifically, and that is a pattern interrupt. Like, what is that, right? It's what people, you have to imagine, right? When someone's scrolling on Instagram or on TikTok or Facebook or whatever, you are basically showing them your ads. Everyone is kind of noticing, like everyone is used to some type of pattern, right? If there's, as you know this, like after 9 months, humans develop habits. And so they notice, okay, well, here's a button, right? Oh, the person's just going to try to sell me something. Cool, right? Now, a pattern interrupt, what that does is it does something completely differently than what they're used to. And this is what you have to do in your hook. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be something completely random. It could be a jump scare. It could be a super weird thing that they see which has nothing to do with the stuff. It could be the problem really in position or show it in the worst way possible. It could just be something essentially, and this is the important part, that is meant to either go viral or usually like if it was organic, right? That's what makes organic videos go viral. Like, just doing this controversial stuff, pattern interrupt, but you can do this, not as controversial as that your ad account doesn't get banned on your paid ads too. And this is what you should do. Second thing, emotion. Right? If you show some type of reaction, this is what I'm going to get into in a second, but essentially if people see other people showing some type of very positive or very negative emotion, they will stay longer. And this is all these things, by the way, all these 3 steps are going to contribute to your hook rate. Your hook rate is how many people watch the first 3 seconds of your ad, also called the thumb stop rate, if you've ever heard of that before, right? Emotion. Third thing, movement. If there's some type of camera movement or product moves around or something is flying here and there, it tends to, people want to see where that motion or where that movement is going to. Therefore, it's going to increase your hook rates. It's going to make everything better. It's going to basically get more people into the top of funnel. And so why that is, or how you can actually execute this, for example, I'm sure you're seeing these beauty products where people are just going super close to the camera and just like talking to, or like moving away from it, moving super close to it. All these things change the hook rate to the positive, right? So movement, motion, all that kind of stuff. And then last but not least, we have the reaction, right? If there's some type of reaction, it could be, this is really tied to emotion, but essentially if you show, like for example, when you have a gifting angle and you actually show the reaction to that gift, it's going to basically be a guaranteed proven seller, right? Now, audio hook, right? Now we have 2/3. Cool, but we still missed one. And this is actually the thing, and to be fair, which most people get wrong. Because a lot of people are good at this, and a lot of people are good at this. This is basically coming down to a checklist, and this is going to come down to consistently testing, right? Now, the audio hook, right, is something which most people completely ignore because they have some random song, and they have some random AI voice or the UGC creator speaking, and that's it, right? But if you look at super good VSLs, right, so video sales letter ads that are essentially extremely at a high scale, super long ads, 5-10 minute ones, how they can retain people like that is actually determined also in the hook. And so this is actually really important. Go ahead and pause the video, go to the ads library and open up back pain or whatever super hardcore problem solving brands that do VSLs. And you're going to almost always notice they have some type of super weird random audio hook. It could be a scream, it could be a bone cracking sound, it could be whatever. It could be whatever you want to show, prove, or like isolate. It's all going to be in there, right? Because these things, once again, massively skyrocket the hook rate. And so when it comes to the hook rate, you look for specifically at least 50 to 60%. Why? Because you want to be moving forward to also obviously running super long ads because they convert better on unaware people. And unaware people should be the thing that you should focus on because that's always the biggest total addressable market. And so if you are able to convert unaware people, you're basically going to make a lot of money. Okay, that's what you should remember from this video. So how can you do that? Well, you do get away with running longer ads by having a huge top of funnel. There's going to be a drop off anyways. There's always going to be a big drop off in your ads. You can't fix that. It's super hard to fix that. And if it's always going to happen, it doesn't matter how good your ad or your video is, right? Same thing on YouTube. If you ever looked at a YouTube retention curve, it's always like this. It's super fast in the beginning and then boom. It's the same thing in your ads. It doesn't matter how good your ad is. And so imagine this, right? If you get only 30% of people, right, to watch the hook the first 3 seconds, which should be the biggest, like the most important factor about your entire ad, then by minute 2, there's no one that's going to be watching anymore. And so therefore, your ad is not going to convert people because no one gets to see the call to action. No one actually clicks. No one actually buys. This is where you have low conversion rates and high CPCs. Terrible, hard to crack, right? Not good. However, if you just doubled it to 60, right, of course there's going to be the same drop off, but at the end, at the call to action, is going to be a lot more people still watching, if that makes sense. And so think about it this way, and all these things are just, overall things that increase the hook rate, right? So content hook, visual hook, audio hook. Now, what you're going to be doing then afterwards is putting all your variables that were working and that were not working into your winning variables spreadsheet, which I want to show you guys. This is looking somewhat like this. We have, as you can see here, just a spreadsheet with all these different things. You can download this in my Discord. I don't have no paid community. You don't need to worry about that. It's completely free. But essentially what it is, it's just a sheet where you can put in all these different things: visual hook, audio hook, text hook, ad length, hook rate, pitch rate, which is how many people watched until the last second, CTR, CPC, CPM, add to cart rate, blah, 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 blah. Okay. All these important things, and really important, right? If it's a variation or a new idea, a new concept. So this is somewhat like a creative tracker, but just more specifically into the each of the variables that you can test on your ads. And you should document this, because in 3 months from now, you're not going to remember what you've tested today, right? So like if you test, just to give you a little context, like the fastest growing brands test around 100 creatives a week right now. 100 a week, which is 400 a month. And so in 6 months from now, you're not going to remember the third variation from creative test 2 in June, right? You're not going to remember that. So what you should do instead is fill out this winning variables sheet properly, track your variables, and the more you do this, the higher your hit rates get for your brand, right? Without even getting better at the creative skill or the creative strategy or the video editing or graphic design itself. And so here's a couple of best practices that I think are super important whenever you've already done these steps, right? So you have a good hook rate and you have a pretty cool winning variables sheet, right? Now this is really what's important at this, right? So 2 cases that are not good, that are usual when it comes to VSLs or video ads overall, and how to fix them. First one, you get low CPCs, good hook rate, but no one's buying, right? This is exactly what I showed you guys here. Probably the problem of people that rip this exact ad that doesn't convert like we want it to. So how do you fix? Well, you add in something which is called a disqualifier or multiple disqualifiers. So what that looks like is you add in, for example, a specific call out. Instead of saying, hey, this is my beauty product, for example, obviously it's a terrible hook, but instead of saying that, hey, mom's about 40, this is my beauty product. Boom. Very niche down, and without changing anything else, the people that fall into that, the moms over 40, are going to be, oh my God, this ad is for me. And therefore they're going to watch and they're going to convert higher. However, it's increasing CPCs too, because most people are thinking, oh, I'm not a mom over 40. I'm not going to watch this ad, right? So it's going to decrease CTR. It's going to increase conversion rate. Second thing, authority or proof, right? If you have a doctor reacting to something, if you have an influencer speaking about something that people actually know, always going to be people that don't resonate with that, click off, but the ones that do convert higher. Price, offer, obviously this is one of the strongest ones. If you say, and at the beginning of the ad, hey, this costs $20, right? Then there's going to be very few people that actually resonate with that. However, the ones that do are not going to be surprised about anything after they click, right? This is the important change that you should make. Now, the other case, right, the negative example of this is high CPCs. So you basically are paying too much for your traffic, but are also converting high. But you can't scale because your CPCs are too high. And so the cool thing is everything that we've added before, we can just remove, right? We could just remove specific parts of these disqualifiers to lower these. And so what you should notice from this is you can play around with these disqualifiers. And also, by the way, you can play around with their content hook, visual hook, and audio hook in order to balance out your conversion rate and your CPC. This is really important to look at the conversion rate not only on Shopify, but actually on your ad account specifically, and start to understand that ads convert very, very differently. And so I want to give you guys a very important metric, which is actually one of my personal favorite metrics overall, especially recently, and the reason behind it. So in order to get a good ROAS, in my opinion, you need to very, very early on look at your cost per add to cart, right? Because all this iterative stuff here with the hook things, with the winning variable sheet, with, you know, all these disqualifiers, it's all going to lead to you actually seeing very early on if your ad is good or not. So once the actual ads are running after all these previous tests here, you're going to notice if your add to carts are coming in or not, and specifically how much Facebook charges you for one add to cart, right? And I've personally just seen always a very direct correlation between my cost per add to cart and my return on my ad spend, right? And if you don't have this metric set up, then you're just missing out. It's a very, very, very important metric. It's already telling you very, very early on how good your ROAS is going to be, and also how much basically your ad is able to spend, and all these things. So it's really important to check this metric, and that's why I've also included it into this winning variable sheet. Where is it? Here, cost per add to cart. All right, very important metric. All right, guys. That was pretty much it for this video. If you want me to go over this ad, download it, start to edit it in CapCut, right? Start to make a, like a VSL hybrid, UGC VSL hybrid out of it, and start to show you guys how I would actually approach this, even still by ripping ads from Calidata, then go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I hope you could learn a thing or two. Thank you so much for giving me your truly most important asset, which is your attention. Remember that. And thank you so much for watching. I wish you a beautiful day.